All right, let's dive into a puzzle that's totally reshaping how we think about technology and global power. For a long time, we've had this idea, this core belief in the West, that you need freedom to innovate. But China, a one-party state, has become a tech powerhouse. How? That's what we're breaking down today. And it all comes back to one big question.
Right here, this is the heart of it. For decades, the answer from the West was a pretty confident no. I mean, the whole idea was that real game-changing innovation needs things like freedom of speech, open debate, the ability to challenge everything. All the stuff that autocratic systems are designed to crush. The two seemed like oil and water.
And look, this wasn't some fringe theory. Just 10 years ago, when China was rolling out its big Made in China 2025 plan, this was the mainstream view. The consensus was, sure, China can build our phones, but they could never invent the next iPhone. They were seen as the world's best imitators, not its next great innovators. Well, as it turns out, that prediction was completely spectacularly wrong. Yeah, the last decade didn't just challenge that old story. It blew it to pieces. So let's just look at the numbers, because they paint a picture that almost nobody saw coming. Take green tech, for example. What's this 80%? Well, that's China's share of the entire world's solar panel production. That's not just a big piece of the pie. They practically are the pie. It's just total dominance in one of the most critical technologies for our future.
Or, how about we look up at the sky? 70%. That's the slice of the global consumer drone market controlled by just one Chinese company, DJI. We're not just talking about being good at manufacturing. We're talking about leading the entire high-tech field.
And this one really says it all. In 2023, China zoomed past Japan to become the world's #1 car exporter. And what's fueling that? You guessed it, their massive head start in electric vehicles and battery technology. So all of that adds up to this. When you look at the Global Innovation Index, China is now firmly in the top tier. It's actually ranked ahead of an established innovator like Japan and is nipping at the heels of Germany. This just wasn't supposed to happen. So you have to ask, how on earth did a tightly controlled state pull this off? Well, the answer seems to be a new, incredibly sophisticated playbook. According to an analysis by author Jennifer Lind, it's a model she calls smart autocracy. And this is the concept that really helps us unlock the whole paradox. So what is smart autocracy? Think of it as a very deliberate strategy that combines two things that feel like total opposites. On one side, you have incredibly tight, high-tech political control. But on the other, you have very targeted, state-driven economic openness that's all about lighting a fire under innovation. The main goal here isn't to create maximum freedom, it's to get maximum innovation, but only within a system that makes sure the ruling party stays firmly in control. And it's how these two pillars work together that's so fascinating. On the one hand, you have the government using digital surveillance and AI to monitor its people and stop dissent before it even starts. But at the exact same time, that same government is pouring unbelievable amounts of money into research and development, building up world-class universities, and actually encouraging a competitive private tech sector to grow. Let's dig into that control side for a second. This isn't your grandfather's authoritarianism with tanks in the streets. No, this is the 21st century toolkit. We're talking AI-powered surveillance, facial recognition pretty much everywhere, and collecting biometric data. It's about making controls so pervasive and so subtle that it just becomes normal. And then you have the other side of the coin, the innovation engine. The state has opened up a fire hose of cash for R&D. They've dramatically improved their universities. And the result? China is now churning out more science and engineering PhDs than any other country on the planet. They have built from the ground up a massive army of skilled tech workers. And look, if you think this is all just theory, think again. Remember DeepSeek? It was this open source AI model that blew everyone away in 2023. You'd think a team behind something like that would be full of Silicon Valley stars, right? Nope. The vast majority were engineers trained right there, inside China's university system. That's the payoff on that huge investment in people. Okay, so it's easy to look at all this and think China has totally cracked the code. But hold on a second. It is definitely not that simple. This model has some serious critics. It faces huge challenges, and let's not forget, democracies still have their own unique and incredibly powerful advantages. I mean, the West is hardly out of the game. Democratic nations are still home to most of the world's absolute best universities and these incredible global networks of scientists and creators. Just think about it. It was scientists in the West working in a really open and collaborative way who gave us the first COVID-19 vaccines in record time. The motivations are just different. Freedom of inquiry versus state-directed goals. Both can get results, just in very different ways. And on top of that, China is staring down some massive problems at home. We're talking about some serious economic headwinds, a population that's aging super fast, slowing productivity, a mountain of debt, and a real estate crisis that just won't go away. These are major drags on the whole system. So this brings us to what is maybe the most crucial point to understand. The ultimate goal of this entire system, it's not what you might think. It is not about maximizing economic growth, whatever the cost. The number one priority above everything else is ensuring the survival of the ruling party. That's why you see the government sometimes crack down on its own incredibly successful tech giants. If a company gets too powerful and looks like a potential threat to state control, regime survival will win out every single time. So all of this, it's not just some academic debate about different economic models. China's rise as a tech superpower has really direct and profound consequences for the rest of the world. It's created a fundamentally new kind of global challenge. So why should you care? Well, a more technologically advanced China poses a much bigger military threat to Taiwan, and it's a direct challenge to American influence across Asia. But it's even bigger than that. It provides a successful alternative playbook for other autocratic countries like Saudi Arabia or the UAE to follow. And China is already exporting its surveillance tech, basically helping other authoritarian regimes get a tighter grip on their own people. And really, if you want to understand the ambition here, you just have to listen to this quote from China's leader Xi Jinping. There's this deep conviction inside China that their time has come and that their path to becoming a tech superpower is now basically inevitable. Which leaves us with this final, really critical question. The old, comfortable assumption that you can't have innovation without democracy, well, that's been proven wrong. A new, very powerful competitor is on the field, and they are playing by a completely different set of rules. So the question for the West is no longer if China can innovate, it's how to compete in a world where it already does. Can anyone really afford to be complacent anymore?